Nigel, thank you for joining me at the Blues Hotel, one part of the Honey Badgers.
Thanks very much, Kelvin.
Nigel,
Yeah.
no worries. Yeah, Nigel, tell us about the band, how it was formed, and the journey that led you to where you are today.
The band was formed, believe it or not, out of jam sessions in one of the local hotels, or a couple of the local venues here, actually, at the time. It's probably as far back as 2016. So there was a few different variants of something that was proposed to originally be like a funk horn band, but it didn't actually pan out that way. And we didn't really get serious until probably 2018, when the original lineup formed, which is four of us to start with. One of which was me, and our bass player Peter Nixon, and Peter Allen, our drummer, and our original singer Benny Brown, who was on the album for one track. He came back and made a special cameo. So if anyone's listening to the album,
yes.
Benny came back for a track on the last track of the album, because we had a bed. It's a long story. Maybe we talk about that when we talk about the record. But
Sure.
yeah, so we sort of did a few shows and picked up a couple of extra horn players, which was always the plan, in Tim and Gio to fill out the three-piece horn section, which was always something we wanted to have. And then things changed a bit for us when we entered the local Blues Challenge in 2019, before everything went pear for music in Australia. And we made the final of that locally, and didn't get the champagne on that occasion. But what it did was it made us write original music in earnest. So there was a lot of effort that went into that. Peter Nixon, our bass player, is a very talented writer. He came up with some very good songs very quickly, and that really set us on a path where people seemed to resonate with what we were doing around songwriting. And how we played, and we developed somewhat of a smaller following, especially in the southern suburbs in Adelaide, down the Southern Vales and the McLaren Vale, the winery region down there, which is not a bad place in the world to be honest. And then, of course, COVID boned everybody. Our original singer Benny, decided to step back from music for a while. He had other commitments that he just wanted to focus on at the time, which was all good. And while that was all going on, we found ourselves a new singer in Peter Hollow, who also is a pretty handy songwriter. And he's settled into the band pretty quickly. We entered the local Blues Challenge once again to go to Memphis in 2022, that was. So Peter had been in the band less than a year, and as our singer, frontman, guitarist. And we won the chance to go to Memphis. We went to Memphis in January 2024. We honestly thought we'd be do two. When you go to Memphis, I'm not sure how much you know about the IBC, but the format is you do an international showcase on night one. It's all on Beale Street, up and down in the clubs, up and down Beale Street. And then you do two heats. They're like the quarterfinals, they call them. And we thought we'd go out straight sets and we'd be tourists. So we expected to do 3 gigs. And you're in Memphis for the week, just in case. So we were there for 8 nights, I think, from memory. Then, of course, we just wanted to go to Stax, Sun Records, the Lorraine Hotel, the Civil Rights Museum, and do all those things that tourists like to do in Memphis, and especially musician tourists. Yeah. And, of course, we won our quarterfinals, went into the semi, which was a bit of a surprise for all of us. I think the local, one of our local supporters, Mick Young, who has a radio show in Adelaide called Blues Power, every Thursday. It's on right now, as a matter of fact. He knew we'd made the semi before we did, so he's messaging us going, "Do you guys realise you're in the semi?" We're like, "What? What do you mean?" Serious?
Oh no!
So that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So we played the semi at Club 152 on Beale. It was packed. The whole street it's just such a great event. And we approached that gig with, well, we're not going the grand, so we're not doing the final, so we just didn't leave anything behind at that gig and gave it everything. And there was a bit of sort of that knowledge made us feel at ease, so we just went pretty hard. It was a great gig, and of course, the announcements come, and we were 3 sheets to the wind by this point, because they certainly pour the bourbon pretty heavy over there at Beale Street. And they made the announcement, and we had to go home and go to bed because the final starts at midday on the Saturday or the Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday. Yeah. So what are you talking about? So yeah, we went to the Orpheum Theatre and played the final. And we didn't take away the chocolates on that one, but we made top 6. And from my understanding, the only other band to get that far, and I think they came third, is Collard Greens and Gravy from Melbourne.
God,
Yeah. And that same year, Frank Sultana won the solo duo category outright. And we've done quite a few shows with Frank, and I'm not sure if any of your listeners have seen Frank. I think he's been to Perth once from memory. He might have done Bridgetown, perhaps.
Sure.
And we've done some shows with him since then, locally in Adelaide, and they've just to packed houses. He's just such a great performer. He's a great fella.
Unreal.
Yeah, so I'm probably going on a bit and burning up your time here, Kelvin, but that's the history of the band.
No, fantastic. That's really interesting. So who are your biggest musical influences? How have they shaped the sound of the band?
I think what we do is really it's all you could describe it as soul blues. So that sort of Stax Records sort of sound. You know, the anything that came out of Stax during that golden era in the late 60s, early 70s. People like Albert Collins, Albert King, and in the horns. You know, a lot of us are jazz fans as well. My personal favorite, Stanley Turrentine. He's a really blues influenced saxophone player. And some new stuff as well. I really dig Marcus King. I think he's awesome. And so there's some contemporary artists that are kicking around that I really dig. JJ Graham Mofro, I think they're fantastic.
Awesome.
It's not just. It's always important to go backwards, but there's so much good new contemporary type stuff around. That's good too.
As I was saying to someone earlier, the blues genre has just sort of like boomed into so many different genres. Like sub genres,
and there was no more evident than Memphis. You know, people, some blues police purists might go, "Well, that's not blues," but if they say it is on Beale Street, then I'm pretty sure it is. The wide sort of interpretation of what blues is, even in the Blues Challenge, is interesting. It ranges full on funk to traditional slide, all that. It encompasses all of it. So yeah.
So how did it feel when you at the time when you reached the top 6 with the IBC? How did it feel to be compared to the legendary Collard Greens and Gravy? How did that feel?
No, so what's the classification of this? Can I swear on this show, Kelvin? Or
mate, go for it.
We collectively shit our pants in a big way, and we were just trying. To be honest, we were just trying to sort of get through it without pulling a major screw up on stage, and we played well. If we had a chance to do it again, we'd be a bit looser. But that theatre's pretty intimidating. The whole process, just playing in Memphis, you've got to give that the respect it deserves to start with, to play on Beale Street, but to play in that Orpheum Theatre. And the stage is a paddock, so they separated us out by a long way to what we're used to, because we're used to playing clubs, pubs, little venues, sometimes very squeezy, and being on top of each other. And that's what it was like in the places we played in. Although Alfred's, which is the big Stack sign, is a little bit more generous in terms of stage size. But the Orpheum's a paddock. It's an absolute paddock. They host musical theatre and everything on that stage, so it's big. It was. How did it feel? Yeah, pretty intimidating.
Yeah, could I imagine? No,
but exhilarating at the same time. So yeah,
no, of course, yeah, no. When it comes to live performances, what's been your most memorable performance and why?
I'd have to pick that semi-final at the Club 152 on Beale Street, because we didn't think we were going anywhere, and we left nothing behind on that night. And that's what I think. There's sometimes you just do a gig and your hair's on fire, and you say to yourself, "This is why we do it." That you're chasing, as a musician, you're chasing that feeling all of the time, and that one in particular for me just is a standout. Really, really good show.
And how do you guys prepare for such like big shows, like especially over in the States?
It's pretty straightforward, and that is you rehearse, and you rehearse some more, and when you finish doing that, you rehearse some more, because that's the only thing you can do. Some people, I guess, may do it differently, but we just do a real big amount of just playing. And if we do have a big show, we will make sure we've got plenty of other shows leading up to that big show to make sure we're match fit. And you just got to put the hours in as a group, and it comes out, hopefully in that sort of.
Does it come naturally? Does it come naturally, or do you get the nerves and the anxiety and everything else in between, or does it just come to the flow?
Yeah, I think for some people it's different. For me personally, I used to get really nervous. I still do a little bit, but I get this anxious thing now where I just want to get going. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Yep. And so that energy that used to be nervousness for me and get the shakes and all those sorts of things, now it's just let's go. Come on, let's go. Let's do it. Fire. And I just want to get out there and do it. Yeah, because you've done all the prep. Excellent. And you've done all the work. You've done the rehearsals, and your set list is nicely honed, and you just want to get out there and play.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Right. Okay. Now let's move along to your the band's album.
Yes.
It's your first album, Shakin.
Shakin. Yes.
Yep. Now it was recorded over a 3-year period.
Yes.
Can you take us through the recording process and what challenges, if any, you guys faced with that?
Yeah, our drummer had a serious health situation as part of that. We had another drummer who's Matt Carson, who you might see credited on the record for some of the songs. And we started tracking songs with Matt because we weren't sure whether Peter would come back. Peter Allen, he made a triumphant return to the drums, despite some serious health challenges at the time. And he went to Memphis. It was a credit to him as a person. So he stepped back in. So we had all these beds. They were recorded at different times. They were recorded in different rooms. They sounded different. And some of them were complete and some weren't. So it just, like if you go into a studio and lay down an album, it all sounds the same. The drums sound the same. You don't have to do a lot of post-production. You don't have to retrack much because it's all kind of got the same feel. And it's really challenging to make an album sound the same track to track when it's been done over 3 years and in different places. So that was the challenge. Yeah.
Sure. Was it all live or is it?
No, it was done the traditional way, putting down beds, drums and bass sort of beds with a guide track for vocals and guitar, and then lay it up on top of that. We put the horns on last on most of the tracks, except for a couple that needed horn guidelines. And then Peter came in and retracked, and in some cases did overdubs for that sort of thickening up vocals, those sorts of things, backing vocals. A few of the guys did backing vocals as well. Just the traditional way that you just lay down your guide tracks first and keep on layering up until you're happy with it. So, and then we found this other track that Benny's one of Benny's songs. And when I rang him and said, we've got this thing and it actually sounds pretty good, because we tweaked up the bed and sent it to him. He said, "That's great. I'm going to come and sing on it." And then they ended up doing this sort of guitar battle between him and Peter, our current singer. At the end of the track, which is quite a cool thing, and it's sort of pan left and right to show you that sort of trading fours kind of thing. So it was pretty cool. That's I think that I really like that track. It came out really well. Yeah.
Cool. How did the band's sound and chemistry evolve over the making of the album?
What's our sound? I think when you play live a lot and you play the sort of music we do, you sort of you just become hyper aware of everybody, where everyone's at in a given moment. And our sound developed into something that's fun, I think. I think it resonates with people. We always go out to have fun. We always go out to play as in the pocket as we can. And but at the same time, making sure everyone's having a good time. So what's our sound? Well, yeah, I guess sprinkles of that Memphis kind of Stax Records thing, a little bit of New Orleans, and a little bit of I think our website says tunes rooted in the blues, something like that from memory. And that's what we are. We're sort of rooted in the blues, but we're not wedded to it. We do a little bit of funk and a little bit of New Orleans kind of second line stuff. We do, all sorts of, just trying to keep it fresh. And
good to mix it. It's good to mix it up.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind the songs on the album?
Well, that probably depends on who wrote them. So there's a few authors there. The main songwriters are Peter Nixon, our bass player, and some of those songs were from right back, 3 or 4 years ago that he wrote in a hurry, that have stood the test of time because they're good songs. But someone, Peter Hollow, our current singer, he bought a whole raft of stuff with him and sort of threw them out. Said, "What about this one? What about that one?" And I think the title track "Shakin" he wrote home on the way home from a rehearsal, and it formed up in a few days. And they all use. We're really lucky because both our trumpet player Tim and our bass player Peter are music teachers. So they use Sibelius like it's kind of tool of trade. So you can, and Peter Hollow, our singer, is also really adept at Sibelius. So you can build complete scores very quickly in Sibelius that are annotated, and the horn charts are just about ready to go. So they'll come to rehearsal and go, right, here's the thing, here's a score, here's the horn lines, bang. And that's pretty good because generally songwriting and other settings can take a long, long time. And arranging's a craft, and they're pretty good at it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Now the album peaked at number 1 on the Aberrac charts.
It did. Yes, it did last month.
Wow.
So I'm awaiting the 15th of this month because I think that's when they publish the next one to see how we go. We'll probably dramatically fall out, but you never know.
You'd be all stoked, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. When we got to 2 the month before, so we've been in for 3 months. I think it was 12 the first month, 2 last month, and 1 this month's just gone. And I thought 2 was just outstanding. But to get to number 1, it's great that people are enjoying it and playing it. You know, it's a tough gig to try and get some interest out of Adelaide, I have to say. You know, it's a real you've got to climb some mountains there. Let's just say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I thought Adelaide would have been big for the blues roots sort of.
Oh yeah, the scene here is very good. I just think to break out and get some national interest is
okay.
It's a challenge. Like we've had other bands in the blues scene here have done very well. But it's a tough slog because it's a long distance between here and the East Coast, even to Melbourne. It's only an hour hop in a plane, but if you're out of sight, you're out of mind, kind of thing. So yeah, we're pretty stoked that we were able to get that album, the interest, and I guess it speaks for people who must be enjoying it, right? Because they're playing it, so that's great. Yeah, it certainly made our week when it happened, and we might have traded pretty heavily on our socials as well. So and why not?
Yes. Why not? Why not? That's exactly what it's there for. Yeah. So what sort of feedback have you had since reaching number 1? What in the sense of all your followers, fans, critics?
Yeah, obviously we've had support, nothing but support I haven't really read any bad reviews. Maybe people are just being nice. But it's been interesting. I've had people from interstate reach out as recently as yesterday about, hey, I've seen this, I really enjoy it. Can we do X, Y, and Z? There was yourself, obviously, as well too. So I had someone reach out the other day talking about, if you come to Melbourne, I do videos. Here's my videos, and it would be great to do something. And so it's created an interest, and it's the feedback has generally been very good. I had some feedback from Blues on Broadbeat, some people up there, and had a breakfast with some of the radio community up there, and they were talking about the album in really nice terms. So just makes it all worth it, because it was a lot. It's a lot of work, and even just doing the stuff around releasing is a lot of work. The ISRC codes, all the metadata stuff you have to do to even release a record properly that's got barcodes and those things. It's just a big haul of stuff to do. Yeah.
Amazing what you would go through. What's your take on streaming services versus physical media?
Are you sure you want my answer to that?
Yeah. Look, I asked the last artist that I spoke to, and he's still physical media. There's even Bandcamp now. You don't click much out of Bandcamp.
Well, I guess I'll start with streaming. So if we're talking about streaming per se, it's fundamentally evil in terms of what it does to independent artists. It's skewed to the Taylor Swifts of the world around making their existing huge revenue stream even bigger, and it really hobbles independent music because of the model. And I saw the other day I think they demonetized any streams, anything under 1,000 streams, just demonetized. They're not going to pay at all.
Yeah, right.
Bandcamp, we've had pretty good experience on Bandcamp because you can offer not only merch in terms of physical media, but digital downloads. And it's interesting, Bandcamp, we'd be probably 80-20 in favour of digital downloads versus physical CDs.
Sure.
And they take about, by the time you get your fees and everything else, it's about 19%. So that's a pretty good split when you compare that to nothing from streaming services. It's still pretty good. Out of a CD for $20, you're probably going to get about 16, and that's still okay. Yeah.
Just coming back to the album, any songs on the album that have become like real fan favourites that you know?
Well, I guess that's the one thing that streaming can give you, is it can give you stats on plays and things like that. And Bandcamp also give you stats. Probably the title track's one of the most interest, and also the other tune that is on streaming services, because we only put 2 up for good reasons. We want people to buy physical media, of course. So there's only 2 songs on streaming at the moment. We will eventually put the whole album up because you sort of have to. You've got to be present. Otherwise, it's like you don't exist if you're not in those. It's like a necessary evil. But the other one that's got good feedback is Broken Boy Blues, which I think is track 2 from memory, or might be track 1. And I should know, I've got one here, right here. See, there it is, people. Should buy that record.
Buy that record. That's it.
Yeah, so track 1, it has got really good, but some interestingly, it's good to see the stats on Bandcamp, for instance, because you get some free plays on Bandcamp, and you do see what people like. They really like one of Peter Hollow's songs called "Since You've Been Mine," which is track 3. That gets a lot of plays, and it's a slow blues tune. The other one that's a bit of a standout because it's a swing tune is one of Peter Nixon's, which is "Angel in Red," which is number 7. That gets a lot of hits too. So I don't really have a favourite track. I like them all. So
yeah. It's get to obviously you had the original lead singer make an appearance on the album. Did you work with any other notable musicians or producers or anything like that on the album?
We produced it ourselves. There was hundreds of hours between a few of us in Peter Nixon's studio, but probably way too long, and professionals probably would have done it way quicker. The only other person I should mention is Matt Carson, who was our standing drummer for quite a while Peter was ill, and he features on some of the tracks of the record, and did a great job on some of those tunes. A really good job. But no, that's the rest of it is just us. I think there's some Hammond on Black Cat Bone, is it? I think that Peter Nixon played himself. There's Gio plays harmonica and baritone and tenor saxophone. And the harmonica player was Gio, and Tim, our trumpet player, plays just about every instrument known to man. And I guess when you're a music teacher, you need to. So there's a little bit of him on alto saxophone as well, and one track him playing tenor saxophone. So there's a big mix of different sort of input going on there. Yeah.
Cool. Now, what advice would you give to up and coming blues musicians looking to make a mark in the industry? It's a hard slog, isn't it?
It is a hard slog, and what would my advice be? I'd probably bring it down to a single word, and that's community. You've got to get out. You've got to get out and meet people. You've got to support other people's gigs. You've got to go out and, just get to know your peers and, go to jams, go to do open mics. And people get a bit sort of cranky about open mics, but, anything you do that's out playing that gets you to meet others with similar interests is a good thing. And, we're really lucky in Adelaide. The Blues Association in Adelaide is really strong. I think we're somewhere between 350 and 400 members.
Wow, that's huge.
And, it is. And the local, the stable of bands in the blues community in Adelaide is really strong. There's some really great bands, really, really good bands that have come out. So just get out and network. And I think that's what we've lost a bit. We've lost that since COVID, is that we had 2 jams in Adelaide that were really well attended, and they've really fallen down to in terms of one of them's not there anymore. The venue got closed, and yeah, those sorts of community type things are how you build networks and build. And if you've done your practice and you've got some chops, people and you're a good person, that that people will ask you to go and play with them.
Yeah. So were you guys associated with the Blues Association in Adelaide?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how you got to go to
Yeah,
Memphis.
you can't you can't go to the IBC unless you're sent by an association. That's part of the rules. So yeah, we've been big supporters of it's called ARBA, the Adelaide Roots and Blues Association. Big supporters of them for a long time. And our bass player Peter's working in the Youth in Blues program this year with ARBA. They put on a Youth in Blues initiative, which is recruiting a heap of I think it's kind of maybe 14 to 25s, and supporting young people that are interested in coming up and learning this music. I personally am judging this year's Blues Challenge locally. I'm one of the 5 judges. So I've got the letter the other day. You must not fraternise with any of the performers on the evening. Those sorts of things. So that's quite humbling for me as well. Is to just one minute you're up there being judged, the next minute you are one, and I feel the responsibility of that, and I'm really keen to do it. And I've helped ARBA out as much as possible. We all have wherever they've asked. It's really important, really, really important.
Sure, and they've got the backing of the Blues Foundation in America, don't they?
Yes. So you've got a sort of, and I think so. There's MBAS in Victoria, which is the Melbourne Blues Appreciation Society, and there's the Sydney Blues Society, and all 3 of those. I don't think there is one in Perth though, is there?
There is a blues, the Perth Blues Club. I don't think they're associated with the Blues Foundation though.
Yeah, so there's 3 that are affiliated that I'm aware of, and I think there is one in Canberra also. But there was people there from Sydney when we were there competing. Frank Sultana was from Sydney, and they were sent by the Sydney Blues Society. Yeah, so it's something that they do every year here locally. Is send a band and a duo or a solo duo over. So
Excellent. All right. Look, Nigel, we'll leave it there. I appreciate you taking time out to have a chat to us, speak about the Honey Badgers and the new album Shakin.
No worries. Thank you.
It's a great album. So touring wise, what's the go? Are you guys coming over here at all?
Well, I guess that depends on the people at Blues at Bridgetown and whether they like us or not, because we've certainly applied. We are in Echuca for the Winter Blues Festival in late July. Yep. I'm currently working up some gigs, hopefully with Frank Sultana on the East Coast, and we'll probably do a 3-night run, Newcastle, Kiama, Sydney, sometime later in the year. And also looking to try and get over to Melbourne with a couple of contacts over there after Echuca, because I'm told that most of the Echuca peeps are Melbourne crowd. So hopefully we'll get over there and ride that wave of interest and get some people out to some shows and have some fun. So that's the plan. We'll apply for all the festivals again this year. I'll have a crack at Broadbeach and we'll have a crack at Blues Fest, and we'll see how we go. We've got a little bit more cred now, so hopefully, we might get a sniff there. But yeah, it's just great that the guys from Echuca Winter Blues have been willing to put us on the bill, because it's as I said earlier, it's a tough slog to try and get knock on the door or kick the door in, so to speak, to get those shows. But we're just really excited to go and do it.
Sure. All right, Nigel. Good luck with everything. The rest of the band.
Thank you very much.
Wish them good luck.
No, I hope to talk to you again.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'd like to get you guys on as guest hosts at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can organise, you know how hard it is to organise 6 people. Rehearsals are bad enough, let alone interviews. So
Indeed. Lovely.
Yeah, no worries,
mate. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks, Kelvin.
Cheers. Take care. Cheers. Bye.